Hey everybody, welcome to the Blue Collar Angst podcast, where we dive deep into the realm of any and really everything blue collar. We're going to take a look at a wide range of trades and careers that range from welders and electricians to police officers and everything in between. The guests we bring on the show, the listeners, really essentially you, are the fuel to keep this whole thing going. With that being said, please enjoy, and as always, like, subscribe, follow, do whatever it is that you do to stay up to date so that you don't miss a thing. Thanks. Enjoy the show. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Blue Collar Angst. This week we have a really cool guest with us, somebody I'm excited for. So we have Riley Yeates with us. He's a store manager out in Tremont, Utah of Stoats Equipment, John Deere tractor shop. And it's pretty cool. He owns a CrossFit as well. He owns a gym, CrossFit, Raw, and Retro out in Tremont. And so Riley Yeates is with us, and so is Connor, as always. And how are you guys doing?
Doing great. Glad to be here. Thanks, David. Appreciate the invite.
Riley's a stud, guys. We were just talking, and I'm going to make him blush a little bit. He's a two-time state champion wrestler, throwing down, raised on a farm, right, Riley?
Yeah, dairy farm.
Dairy farm. So he's a country boy, tough, rough, wrestling man. So we're pumped to have those kind of guys on here. So thanks for coming on, Riley.
Hey, anytime, man. Your listeners would probably hate me. I grew up on a dairy farm in the country, but I've never owned a pair of cowboy boots. So
What did you wear? What did you wear when you worked?
Well, Georgia boots. So that was like I went through 2 pairs a year, the slip-on Georgias. But I went out to a national wrestling tournament when I was like 6th, 7th grade, and I just got smoked by this kid from California, long blonde hair, like ripped out of his mind, tan skin, and he was rocking these Vans, like original Vans, two-tone. I still remember, gray and black. And I went home and I bought me a pair of Vans, and that's all I've wore ever since. So, yeah, I beat him the next year too. So,
oh, boy.
Yeah, never owned a pair of cowboy boots, but grew up on the dairy, and yeah, loved the country life. So,
well, dude, why don't you kind of explain, I guess, growing up where you did, for people that don't really know Utah. I know, I live in northern Utah right now. Connor's in Arizona. Before I came to Utah, I just remember thinking I had no idea what it was like out here. I didn't know all the trails, all the mountains and stuff, but maybe kind of explain for the listeners what growing up in northern Utah was like and your story with that.
Yeah, people, I would go out of state to these wrestling tournaments, and they would all ask me if I had, if my dad had multiple wives. Like, that's what everybody thinks of Utah. But no, great snow, big, gnarly winters and awesome 100-degree summers, close to lakes and mountains and all the things. So I grew up on a dairy from the time I was, could walk. I remember working with my dad from 12 on. I was on the payroll, being trusted to go out and rake hay through the night and irrigated with my uncle through the night. We'd work. We had a pretty big dairy, and so 14, 15, 16 years old, we'd work all day, and then once or twice a week we'd work all night chasing water, and then we'd work the whole next day. And if I wasn't on the dairy working, we were wrestling. That was what my older cousins did. So the dairy's owned by my 4 uncles and my dad. So I had a bunch of bosses and a bunch of cousins running around. And, like I was telling you guys before we started, it was survival. It was survival of, like, you stepped out of line or you said one wrong word, you got your ass whooped, and you had to hold your own. So we all grew up on the wrestling mat and on the dairy farm, and just tried to squeeze in some fun in between. So yeah, that's how I grew up.
Dude, I feel like wrestling. Did you wrestle, Connor, when you were in high school?
No, I played basketball.
No. Yeah, I wrestled a little bit, and I wasn't a two-time state champ or anything like that. I was a three-time national champion, but I'm just kidding. But dude, the farm kids, whenever you wrestle the farm kid, it was like, I remember we went to a tournament in southern Colorado, and I just, the kid had his sweats on. He didn't have just, he was in his sweats getting warmed up. He had a hoodie on, and I got cocky, and I looked at him, and I was doing really good at that tournament. And I said, "Hey man, good luck." And he just looked at me and didn't say anything. And I was like, I'm going to beat this kid's ass, right? And he took his hoodie off like 2 minutes later, and he was jacked, dude. He was so big, and he pinned me in like 15 seconds. So I learned my lesson not
Yeah.
to mess with farm boys then, dude. It was rough, but it's funny.
Yeah, it's a good way to grow up. Taught me how to work, taught me how to watch my mouth and, back up what I say and be respectful. And I had to be responsible, from 14 years old and 15, 16, and your uncle, it's your turn to go out and rake hay all night. Like you have to make sure that shit gets done and done right. And then we'd go out and bale, and you had to make sure the moisture was right and the pressures and keep the baler running, make sure the dew was right and you weren't putting up wet hay. And so, from a young age, I was taught to be responsible and work hard, so it was a great way to grow up. Great way to
How
grow up. I wouldn't change it.
how do you feel like that growing up that way maybe affected the way you are today? Do you feel like those lessons learned, the responsibility and the work, do you think that had shaped your life and brought you to where you are today, a lot of it?
Yeah. I mean, you learn how to handle hardships and pressure and stress and responsibility, and you learn how to you learn that working hard and doing the right things and being responsible is what allows you to get ahead. I interview and hire so many people nowadays. I've had wore a lot of different hats at the dealership here. We got 40, 50 employees here in Tremont, and I've hired a lot of them, and I made a lot of bad hires, and those bad hires are the kids that they don't they feel like they can say whatever they want, and they don't have to like go up to it. They don't have to be responsible for what they do and say, and they feel entitled, and they never had to work for anything in their life. And so to come in here and earn your keep in a really aggressive, like solid shop, they just crumble, and it's tough. So yeah, having to be relied upon from a young age and work hard has definitely helped me in my career.
Just gonna tell a quick story. When I was a kid, I grew up in the country. I grew up in a really small town, like 2,500 people. Um, and my dad, we had this big tree in our front yard, and he's like, "We're gonna cut that tree down, and I need you to dig out that stump." And this was one of them big trees. It was all watered down, so you gotta, you're digging it with the shovel, and you have an axe. You're trying to chop the roots out, and it's just bouncing off the roots, And I'm a young kid, and I'm just like frustrated, right? Like I'm pissed. Like this sucks. And it's so much work, and all I have
Mm-hmm.
is this quad that I'm also trying to like pull it out with, like that's not going to do anything. And one of my dad's buddies come over, and they're watching me work, and he says, "Hey," and I can hear him, out of the corner, or out of my ear, "Hey, I got a backhoe. I'll just drive it over here and rip that thing out." And I heard my dad say, "Nah, this is gonna teach him some lessons, some hard
Yeah.
working lessons." And dude, I was pissed. Like I walked inside, I was like, "Mom, Dad's just being a jerk. He's making." Anyway, and they both told me get back out there and finish the job, and I did. You know what? But the lessons I learned just from that job alone were huge, and they have affected my life for years and years. That was probably you know 16, 17 years ago, and I still
Mm-hmm.
remember it like it was yesterday, and how hard it was, but how much it taught me. And man, that teaches you stuff as a kid.
Yeah, I learned, I think a valuable lesson I learned that I didn't realize till I started, like managing employees was, I was the bottom of the barrel for a long time working at the dairy, right? With, your uncles, your, there's four bosses and they're watching out for their kids and, you're just an employee, you're just a worker, right? And you're never going to be an owner. It's just not in the cards. And then I learned to just try and be or do whatever was asked of me the best I absolutely could. And the worst hires I've made at this dealership are the kids that come in and they see a guy that's been here for 10 years or 15 years and they want what he has, or they want to make the money he's making, or they want to be in the field truck, or they want to be working on the $1 million forage harvester and doing this and that. And I'm asking them to come and detail equipment or wash equipment, there's an entry level position, and I can't get them to do that because they're always trickling into the shop trying to do what I'm not, what I didn't hire them to do. And so I tell all these kids, like, if you want a future here, if you want to get better, if you want to climb the ladder in this company, be the damn best tractor detailer washer that you can possibly be, or whatever you're asked to do, whatever you're hired for, whatever your responsibilities are for, be the best at that you can be. And then when an opportunity arises, that's who your supervisor or is going to say, hey, this dude, we're underutilizing this guy. He's kicking ass here. We're going to promote him. He can do this. He can do more, and so that's what I've tried to do. And I started as a $13 an hour parts guy here at 26 years old, starving in college, sick of working at the dairy for my uncles, not having no idea what I'm doing with my life. And in 8 years and 7 or 8 different positions, I'm running the whole store just from hard work and trying to be the best I can at whatever my supervisor asked me to do. So that's a valuable lesson I learned from having to just work at the farm and hang on a shovel for a bunch of years, So
what's it been like, man? You mentioned interviewing the younger generation, I'm sure it's changed, even in just like 10 years, right? From when you started to, kind of now. Mm-hmm. What's the biggest change? You mentioned entitlement, and I totally agree. I think that's something I look at some of the kids like in middle school right now that I see, and I'm like, dude, it's going to be even worse than it is now. But what are you seeing, I guess, at your shop?
Well, so we're lucky here. We have a killer crew. We've been lucky to hire a bunch of like-minded people, a bunch of, young, aggressive kids. But I know what they're seeing at other shops. And they're having a hard time. Like for one really unique thing, 10 years ago, if you hired a young diesel tech and you dangled a $200,000 service truck in front of him, he would trip and fall all over himself to be in that field truck out in the field chasing tractors. And he'd work all night long to stay in that truck, right? It was a sense of pride and joy to be a field service tech. Well, nowadays, these kids we're hiring out of diesel tech school, they're asking to get out of the service truck because they're more worried about their schedule. They're more worried about being not being tied to, such and such forage harvester goes down. You got to run and go now. They don't want that. They want to be 8 to 5 or make their own schedule, working in the shop, nobody telling them when they have to work, how long they have to work. I mean, they'll come in and work early mornings or late nights or whatever, but it has to be their schedule. And they don't want to be in a service truck. That doesn't matter to them. It's all about their schedule. Money doesn't even matter to them that much. It's more about their schedule and how flexible you can be with that. It's super weird.
How do you deal with that, man? Like when they come at you and they're like, I don't really want to go on any calls. I just want to kind of come in at 10 o'clock or whatever they're saying. Like, how do you deal with that?
Well, so luckily we have been really careful. So when you have a really high performing shop, so we're the top shop in our company, have been for decades, and we have a really good reputation on the forage harvester side of things. So $1 million machine that chops corn and alfalfa for dairy farmers, and anyway, they're really really sweet machines. So we service like 40 of them. Got a couple old boys that have groomed some young guys, and we've just got a really strong team, and everybody's bought in. We've gotten lucky, and actually through the gym met some guys out of like Ford dealerships that came out of the military that came over, that so I haven't had to deal with as much of that because we work so much on the team, you know, and getting everybody bought in to being number one and being on a winning team. It's some of these other stores that are suffering at that because they haven't focused on building a team and gathering the troops to, you know, getting them to buy in on winning and being better than the competition. So yeah, I honestly haven't had to deal with that as much, because I got a great relationship with my guys. I don't micromanage them. You know, I think a lot of people probably think they can get away with murder in, you know, working for me, but they all know the line that they don't cross, and that in any time that line is crossed that affects our team or the morale of the team, you know, that's when like we have a really, really awkward, uncomfortable conversation, and, you know, tempers get flared, and and they all know what line they can and can't cross. I put up with a lot of shit because they go out in the middle of the night and work all night. I put up with a lot, and they make their own schedules for the most part, but there's lines that they don't cross, and I've set that line and been really clear with it and try and stay super consistent with that.
You know, I think having a boss, we met with a guy yesterday actually, and I had an episode with him that'll be coming out soon. Well, actually, it'll probably be out before this one, I think. Right, Coke?
Yeah.
Or yeah. Anyway, and a lot of what he was talking about was, you know, showing your guys that you care about them, and then they'll take care of you. You know, that was a lot of what he talked about, and I thought that was super inspiring. But it sounds a lot like what you're trying to say, Riley, is, you know, you show your guys that you care about them and that, you know, you're interested in them, and they'll work for you. You know, they'll think more about, you know, getting the job done and work for you than they will just being like, I'm on my, you know, I do my own thing. I don't care about, you know, this company, because they care about you, and you make it personal and you make them know that you care about them. And do you feel like that's, you know, been a big part of it as well?
Yeah, like you know, you don't have to sign an employee agreement when you hire on with me. You know, none of that stuff. Like I don't guys take time off whenever they want to take time off, right? When I hire somebody on, or we're talking about you know, trying to get somebody on the team here, I always say, like, I don't want you to miss your kids' things or your family's things. Like, don't miss a family vacation or don't miss your kid's ball game because of this job. But be as flexible as I am with you. Help me out when I got a customer breathing down my neck and he's down, you know, like, yeah, go to your kid's ball game and then come in early for me. And everybody buys into that. Like, that flexibility and that respect of, you know, just working with them. And like you said, Connor, you know, letting them know you care. And then when they do go out late at night or whatever, I'll say, dude, take your wife out to dinner and bring me the receipt, you know, like I'll reimburse you, or I'll buy them $100 gift card because they've been busting ass. And, just little things like that. Let them know that, hey, what you're doing is what we're after, and you're appreciated. And we know that you're the lifeblood of this dealership. You know, without diesel technicians, we'd all be screwed. You know, salesmen couldn't sell. I wouldn't have a job. They literally are the lifeblood of this dealership. and they could go get a job anywhere they want right now. Like there is not a shop in, you know, anywhere close to me that's not looking for a technician. So it's highly competitive, and you got to get them bought in, and they got to be part of the team, and they got to be on a, they got to feel like they're on a winning team and they're contributing, and I try and make that clear every day.
That's cool, man. I think, the guest that we talked with, on our previous episode, Mike Ewing, he, we talked a lot about trust, and, that is a two-way street. Like you're saying, like, hey man, you worked a little bit later. You had to go on this call, come in a little bit, come in later, taking their wives out to dinner, treating people right and trust. It's cool that you've created something there, in a short time. You've only 8 years. Is that how long you've been at Stoats?
Yeah, and I wouldn't say I've created. I mean, I'm lucky. I work around a bunch of good people, and I've had incredible leaders around me. My boss that hired me and mentored me all the way through. Same thing. He never micromanaged me. Like I never had to answer for anything. He'd let me know where he thought I could be better. Every once in a while in a great way, but never micromanaged. He was really good. He hired good, aggressive people that cared and let them do their job. Didn't get in their way. So I got two great salesmen that help build that reputation. A lot of the guys I took over in the shop were already here, already building that mentality. I was just smart enough to not screw it up and add to it. So great people around me have taught me all these things, and I just tried to follow the leader and not fix something that's not broken. Like
Yeah.
There's no reason to reinvent the wheel. Look at what people are doing well and what works, and try and do what they do and add your little flair to it.
It's kind of cool. This is a personal note though on everything you've said, man. So my mother-in-law, she actually works out there at Stoats, and it's no BS when you say like you guys take care of your people. Like if there's something that has to happen, or a family emergency pulls up, she's always able to come out, and just like Riley was saying, I mean, it's cool. Our last guest too, not to just keep bringing up Mike, but it was awesome to talk to him, but it's just cool to see the realness in people and what difference good people can make, especially as a boss. I mean, that's a big responsibility, not just, the managing aspect of all of it, but the people side of it is huge. So that's cool that, that you're doing all that. One thing I want to talk. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, your mother-in-law is a salary employee, but she's earned her keep to be a grandma, man. And as long as shit's getting done, I don't care how often she's here. Like literally, it doesn't matter how often she's here, because it always gets done. And that's the respect she deserves, and that's what I try and treat everybody.
So 2 days a week, if she goes down to just like Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah.
Can I get a commitment on that? I'm just kidding.
No, for real, man. You need a babysitter?
Well, dude, let's talk a little bit about CrossFit. What made you want to start that gym? Kind of walk the audience through, was it ground up, or was it kind of, how'd you get into that?
So my wife is, since the day I married her, I knew she was like pretty high potential. And what's funny is when we're young and looking for a wife, like I didn't have, nobody was telling me what to look for in a wife. I had no clue, right? You just look for somebody you're attracted to, and it jives for a minute, and then you end up marrying this person, especially in Utah, serving LDS missions and coming home, and like you're just looking for that first girl that gives you attention and you're attracted to. And so I always tell people every day how lucky I got, because I got a lot of buddies that did the same thing and married women that, just are tough to be around. And so she, while we were married, she decided to go back to school. She was having a hard time figuring out what she wanted to do. She went into cardiac rehab, worked inpatient at a hospital down Ogden for a little while, worked outpatient, was doing then she worked for a physical therapy office, was doing bridge programs, taking people from physical therapy, like athletes from physical therapy. She was writing programs to get them up to full speed, to go back to full speed. They weren't keeping her very busy there. So I had 5 shoulder surgeries, kind of fat and out of shape, wasn't doing anything physical. Decided to start going to the gym. She's always been physical. She talked me into going to this CrossFit gym with her. And kind of filled that, like I was telling you before we got on, it filled that competitive void. I lost out, on wrestling when I wasn't able to, try and go wrestle in college. And she ended up finding her love there coaching CrossFit. So she was coaching at this gym, and everything was good and kosher. And then, I don't want to bag on anybody, but some bad shit went down at this gym. And the owner, instead of just taking the high road and trying to make things better, went the opposite direction and burned it to the ground. So my wife was begging me to like try and buy it or do something or start something and compete. And she ended up quitting coaching. It got so bad. So she was like dead set to like put this dude out of business. So we hired the business consultants, a company by the name of Best Hour of Their Day, a couple dudes that have owned CrossFit gyms, and decided to form a CrossFit affiliate consulting business. So we bought into their company, and they started helping us secure like a building deal. Like that's where we started. We started meeting with landlords and negotiating contracts and lease agreements, and just nothing was working out. And the gym in town something happened in court. He ended up selling the building with all of his equipment included on a 1031 to a guy in town. The next day, that guy called me, said, "Hey, I just acquired this building, and we've heard your name through the grapevine that your wife's interested. Do you guys want to start a gym?" So we like halted everything else. We signed the lease agreement, and the gym shut down for a month. A month later, we did like 2 weeks of online programming. We bought our programming. We bought all the software. Month later, we held like a town hall meeting and just let everybody know what's going on. Here's our pricing. Here's our membership agreement. Here's our cancellation policy. We're going to do this thing. And dude, I did not want to do it. I was like, yeah, I was so scared. It was like we spent about 50,000 out of pocket just in equipment, because he had taken some of the equipment. Equipment was run down, upkeep, the consulting business, that we had to buy into, and signed a 2-year lease, and we had about 60 people sign up day one, and I think we're a year and 2 months in, and at like 130 members and 6 coaches and 4 gals to watch daycare, and my wife's just killing it every day. Like she's just like layering on all these cool like layers to the business. Just every month something new's coming, and just killing it. So yeah, that's how it started. I didn't want to. She begged me, and then we got in with this company, and they kind of just pushed us into it. They were like, "You guys are like, there's not another gym in town to compete, and like you can rent this building. You are stupid to not jump in and figure it out." So we jumped in, and it's going great. I don't have to do a whole lot anymore. I coach 3 to 5 classes a week, depending on the week, and then other than that, I am the head maintenance guy and get bossed around by my 100-pound wife. In a nutshell.
I was going to ask you, you know, what would be your biggest takeaway for someone in that wanted to start a business, but it sounds like you answer that. You just have to have a badass wife. That's gonna make you do it, But isn't that how it is? I know Coke's wife really, really well, and my wife, and it sounds like your wife, man. A good woman is hard to beat to make a great man, and man, it sounds like she's doing that for you. But back to my question,
young
seriously.
kids out there, find a gal that's independent, like handles her own shit. You don't have to, yeah, find a girl that's independent.
And a woman that's gonna make you want to be a better person and push you to be a better person and make you want to be the best guy that you can be. Because that has taken me miles since I've been married to my wife. She's completely changed who I am, and for the better,
Dude, it's funny though too. Like I'm sure all three of us can relate. Like you're saying, Riley, like the independent woman that you're looking for, like in Connor, like you need somebody to call you out. You don't want her just to be like, just go do whatever you want. Because if that was the case, I mean, dude, who knows where I'd be? I'm certain we could be anywhere. But it's cool, man. Like our women do definitely shape our life.
That was a layer to starting the gym. Also, is when we kind of like went underground, because the old gym was still operating. We left. We knew we were starting something, but we wanted to kind of keep it on the down low. So we formed what we called a leadership team, and we would go to this. We have this party barn at the dairy where all the family meets, and we'd take them there. We invited. There was about 12 of us, and we would take them there, build a fire, smoke some meat, feed them, and we would literally just for hours talk about the gym, the culture, the mentality, what we wanted to build, and how we wanted this group of people to look like. And every person on that team was handpicked by my wife and I as somebody we respected and somebody that we knew would call us out. Like tell us, no, that's dumb. Don't do that. Like we did not want any yes people on that team. And it was great. Like there was spirited conversation. People weren't afraid to call people out, and it was incredible. So just like with your wife, the people you surround yourself with, the people you hire, the company you hire onto, like make sure those are the people that you surround yourself with.
Tyler Sassy said exactly what you just said, man, a couple episodes back where, I had asked him, like, how'd you create this winning team? And, he said painfully at first, but think it, say it. And I think that applies, in any relationship, marriage, in a business relationship. You think it, you say it, and, you're going to have hard conversations, but it's just going to be so much better than just, letting things slide. Because, if you would have done that, so many things could not have happened, right? Or the gym couldn't have grown like it has in a year. You guys have done almost more than doubled your numbers. So it's just awesome.
We don't know what we don't know. Right. And you need people around you you gotta be comfortable with people being better around you. And that was why the old gym failed, is the owner had to always be the smartest person in the room, the most fit dude in the gym, the best coach. And that doesn't make you better. Like the smartest dude in the room is the guy that says the least. Like it's
so true. We talked about that with Mike and Mike Ewing, he's a foreman. He does maintenance out in the South, and we were talking about it, and smart people, something that every smart person does well is they surround themselves with other smart people. They're not threatened by, every good team. You want all the smartest people you can. If you're going to sit there and isolate yourself from somebody smarter, you're just insecure. And it's just so true. It's just a universal truth, right? And it's something that, you've tuned into, and me and Connor tried to tune into as well. So Connor's looking at me like, you're the dumb one. Dude, no, I was going to say really quick before we lose track of this CrossFit deal. So I was telling guys at work, I was like, yeah, dude, we got Riley Yeates coming on, and he manages Stoats, and I was like, he owns a CrossFit gym out there, and I had a guy that was like, oh, really? You know what he did? And it was that original owner that you were talking about at first, dude. Like, he's like, oh, I think that's that guy, and I was like, I don't think so, man. Like, he told me
Yeah.
the story, and I was like,
Yeah.
I don't think so, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's kind of funny,
That's the hard part is taking over the same building and a lot of the membership base. Yeah, there is some of that, but I can't let that stuff bother me. We just try and do the
right?
right thing every day, and we've rebranded the whole thing and growing, and yeah, it's going good.
I
It's
wanted
fun.
oh,
Bet on yourself.
yeah, Tyler, Riley. I don't know why I keep wanting to call you Tyler. Have we even?
It's all right.
Yeah, one
Maybe
guy.
you know a Tyler that looks like me.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. That's what I was
Not as
like. You look
handsome
so
though. Not as
familiar.
handsome.
Yeah. One of the things you were talking about that I really liked was you surrounded with people that weren't afraid to tell you what they were thinking and where they thought you could improve. And there's this guy I know. He's an older guy, and he owns this construction company just building houses around the part of the. I live in Arizona, in the part of the Phoenix Valley that I live in. He builds tons of houses. I mean, this man is uber successful. He has a lot of money. And the other day I was talking to him, and he asked me, he said, Connor, is there any piece of advice that you could give me? And this guy's probably 60 years old, and he's got millions of dollars, super successful. And he asked me that,
Well,
I was 27 at the time, and I'm like, what could I give you, that would help you? But he was humble enough, and he knew that any piece of advice from anybody could be beneficial to him to make him better. And I think that's super important as a leader, as a business owner, is someone that is willing to have an open mind to corrective criticism. But like you're saying, also surround them with people that are going to tell you, hey, that's stupid. That's not smart. Trust me. I mean, me and Coke, David, we've had our interactions with this podcast, but we're both not scared to tell each other, like, hey man, that was dumb. Let's not do that. Or, hey man, you need to step it up here. And I feel like you need to surround yourself with those kind of people to be successful, like you're saying.
yeah, absolutely. Everybody here at the dealership kind of has their thing that they add to the team. But me, even before I was the store manager, me and our large ag sales guy, if a customer's pissed, if there's a situation that needs to be handled, it's typically Kyle and I going out to the customer, figuring out what we can do to handle it. And there's a lot of people joke that Kyle and I are like an old married couple, and I always say it's more like a young married couple because neither of us have learned, you know, because we will throw down. I mean, just fight like cats and dogs. But 5 minutes later, we're apologizing, moving on, and figuring out, what the best thing is to do. And I, when I took the job as service manager here, I was taking over a shop that was highly successful, and I was, the guy running it was older than me. A lot of the techs were older than me. I think I was 31 years old, taking over the number one shop in the company. And I was scared out of my mind. And I'm like, how am I going to win these guys over and have them respect me as a leader, as a boss? How am I going to sit across this dude that's wrenched for 40 years, built a lot of the reputation here that's helped us be successful? How am I going to sit across him and talk about like a pay change or a wage adjustment or, like, and I read, and it almost sounds cliche to talk about this book because it's blown up so much, but somebody turned me on at the perfect time to the Extreme Ownership book by Jocko. And it talked about leading up the chain of command, leading down the chain of command, decentralized command, and just the extreme ownership mentality. I had a sticky note on my computer for a long time that said, you know, like take the blame, share the love. And so that was from the day I took over the shop. Everything that went wrong was my fault. Like I spent so much damn time taking blame in front of my technicians and telling them it was my fault, you know. And then I spent so much time in meetings, you know, to the company, to other people, like making sure they were the ones getting the glory for our success. And I was super comfortable with I got super comfortable with letting them be the heroes. And I had two service riders that a lot of the customers outside of like our big core customers, they thought they were the shop managers. And I was super comfortable with that. And I would hear them say things to a customer like, "Oh, I got to talk to my boss." And like that's the only time I've chewed a service rider's ass is when they devalue themselves by saying they have to talk to their boss. I'm like, no, you handle it. You let that customer know that you can make a decision. If it's wrong, we'll talk about it behind the scenes and I'll make it right. And we'll make sure you don't make that mistake next time. But as far as the customer knows, dude, you're making the decisions. And that just that ownership mentality helped me develop so much uh just so much trust, you know, and and helped me win that team. And so I try and practice that today, and I try and practice it as an owner of the gym, and it seems to pay off.
I think, such a big part of that ownership, man, is like that humility aspect of it, right? Like meet Connor's reading Extreme Ownership right now. I've read it. I'm rereading it again because I read it and then I'll read a book and then I'm like, man, I suck. I need to go read that again. I need to apply it or I didn't learn it fully. But, that humility, like going in front of your bosses, right? Or a corporate leadership team and
Mm-hmm.
taking the blame and saying, look, man, this was on me. I should have communicated better to my team so we wouldn't have had this
Yeah.
incident or this problem. You you make yourself a third party looking in on that. And it is just such a humble thing. And, you really, when it works out for people, it's when it's real, right?
Yeah.
You can't bullshit that stuff. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's just cool to talk to you and hear and see, and, obviously know a little bit of the background of your guys' store and just
Mm-hmm.
know that, you know, it's all real. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah. Yeah. No bad teams, only bad leaders. Like that's the
Right.
mentality you have to have. That I'm sure. I don't know if you've read the part with the SEAL team boat crew. Um, that like that's 100% true. And if you can't see that as a leader, like if your team is failing, or you're not hitting goals, like that is your fault. Like there is something you are doing or not doing that's causing that, and you got to look within, and you got to, just like we've talked about, get people around you that will tell you, dude, you are an. I mean, I've been told, as the stress builds in these jobs, I've been told that at one point I became an unapproachable asshole. I got told that by people I respect at this dealership. And it's easy when, as a service manager, it's easy, all the bad is coming at you all the time. Nobody's coming at you with solutions, and it's easy to turn into an unapproachable asshole. And somebody, they called me out on it, and I course corrected and improved, and made sure it, wasn't a problem in the future, instead of my ego getting in the way and being like, no, you're an idiot, you don't know. It's just take that ownership mentality. That book was so impactful to me at that point in my life. There's always a copy on my desk. I'm always looking at it. Um, I have it on a ebook, audiobook, so I can just pop it on anytime I need. I have all the kind of all the chapters kind of memorized as far as like what the principle is that they teach. So if I'm struggling with something, I can just pop that on my way home, and just a quick check, reality check, and it's made me a better husband. And yeah, dude, that book was super impactful. Like I said, it almost sounds cliche because it's blown up so much, but that book's the real deal. Like that principle is extremely important in the
You
blue
know,
collar world as a leader.
yeah, and I love it. I've just started reading it just recently, and it's been super impactful for me. Not only just for work, but like my marriage. You know, taking
Mm-hmm.
accountability, my marriage for mistakes that I make, and um, you know. But one of the things that I had to stop and think about when I was reading this book was I'm not a leader at my job, or I'm not in a leadership position. I guess you know I'm not a boss, and I try to think about this from a different perspective than the way Jocko was talking about it. Um, but you know, the best employees are those people that show that ownership. You know, if you make a mistake, the best employees are the guys that say, "Hey, that's my bad." You know, those are the
Mm-hmm.
kind of people that your bosses want their employees to be. They want those kind of guys. And then those are the kind of guys that get put into leadership positions. So I know a lot of people on here might be like, oh, I'm not a boss, you know, this doesn't apply to me, but it does apply to you. It applies to you as be that employee that is willing to take responsibility for something that might have happened, and be, you know, don't make excuses of why you didn't get that job done, or why, you know, you didn't complete your task, or you something messed up in your job site. Take the ownership. And I promise you, your leadership will respect you way more, and they will never have to worry about you, and that will take you places in your company.
Dude, yeah, so my brother is a journeyman electrician. With he was a two-time state champion wrestler as well. He was better than me. Super super driven, like crazy driven. Obviously wants to master and own his own business one day, right? And so he's talked to me quite a few times about frustrations with his the company he's working for, his boss. It's a smaller company working on high end homes, and he just sees all these things that could be better, but he doesn't understand it from the owner's perspective, right? And so he lets it get him all riled up and frustrated and mad. And I'm like, dude, read this book. There's a chapter on leading up the chain of command. Like there is literally a chapter on that book for people that are not in a leadership position that want to affect change to their leader and get their leader to do what they want them to do. Right? So even if you're not in a management position, you can take this book, and so I had him read it, and it talks a lot about, I won't get deep into it, but it talks about the first thing that needs to happen is you need to de-escalate the situation. For one, your ego has to come down, and you've got to get your supervisor's ego to come down. And the way one of the examples they make, and it's something I use every single time I have a conversation with an employee or with somebody above me. I find a reason, I figure out a way to take the blame for something, or to admit to a fault, or admit to something I could do better, or I'm not doing good enough. And immediately everybody's ego goes down, and we can have a real legit conversation. It's not, rather than my brother going to his boss and saying, you need to get me in on the bids and this, and he was taking problems to his boss instead of solutions. And it was, I guarantee you, his boss's ego was inflated, because like, who the hell is this kid coming at me with these problems that he doesn't understand anything I'm dealing with. And I'm really excited to see, after my brother reads this book, of how he's able to have a better relationship, and actually, because he has some great ideas and he could really add a lot of value to this company. but he's got to do it in a way that his boss feels like he's adding value instead of bringing problems. He's got to bring solutions and value adds and make his boss's life easier, simpler, versus, inflating his ego. And that chapter in that book is incredible for those situations.
It's cool too. Jocko, he talks about that in his book and just on his podcast. He's always talking about, 9 times out of 10, that dude might still have his ego, right? Like, you're not always going to get what you want. You're not always going to affect that change. But, something Mike Ewing said yesterday on the recording was, you can either be the example or you could be the excuse. And that was it was so short and it was so profound and simple. And it's just what we're talking about, right? Like your brother, for example, he could take that and be like, you know what? Like, he could just make excuses about everything, or he could sit there and, own it. And I think it's interesting because I've been in that boat. Connor's been in that boat. You've been in that boat. Everybody has. And most people are going to be, in that situation. So, and like I said, even with reading these books, man, like, it's just a continuum, right? Like, even Jocko, that evolution, it's just a never ending evolution of just trying to retain. And then for me, since I'm so stubborn and dumb, rereading it and being like, oh yeah, so it's cool that you've tapped into that. And that's something I do a lot too.
Yeah. I think Tyler Sassy talked about reading, but like, he reads a lot of books and that knowledge, right? I think he was the one that talked about constant knowledge. And, I'm an obsessive compulsive hobbyist. I'm not as good at obsessing about like the things I probably should obsess about, like educating myself on politics and all, all this stuff. But I'm an obsessive learner, and that translates over to my hobbies oftentimes, to where I enjoy learning about the task or about whatever I'm doing almost more than I enjoy performing it. And so I obsess about something and I buy all this stuff that I need to be able to do this thing. And then just about that time when I feel like I can do it and do it well, and then it becomes less fun and I'm on to the next thing, and drives my wife crazy. But that's helped me a lot in life as well, of the developing knowledge and being able to talk to people of all walks of life and all different things about different things, and be able to relate to people, find reasons to talk and sell myself and sell our company and sell the gym. And it's knowledge is incredible, and sharing that knowledge is even better. So
that's one thing, dude, like, bringing up Tyler, I'm sure Connor can relate to this. We got off that call and, we talked a little bit before, and just to, he talks about how he dropped out of high school and his mentor was like, hey man, go to community college and learn Microsoft, learn all these applications. It's going to help you so much. And, some people could look at that and be like, dude, that guy didn't even graduate high school. But if he didn't tell you that, there's no way that you would know that. Me and Connor got off the call and we were like, dude, he is special. He's different, right? Like, simple, down to earth, humble, but it's cool because you could just see that he just wants to get better. And me and Connor were talking about it. We're like, man, dude, like, Connor, you texted him about books too, weren't you?
Yeah. I texted him and asked him. That's why I'm reading that book. Is like, we got off that call, me and Coke, and I called him and I was like, dude, we suck. Like, bro, we've got to step up our game. Like, this guy's reading, what do you say, 6 books a month? And
that's crazy.
And I told Coke, I was like, I want to be like that, man. Like, I want to be like that. I want to be the guy that just, so we start talking about a topic and he's like, oh, this happened in this part of history and I read it in this book. And I'm like, man, how impressive is that? That you just have a
smart.
Yeah, just super smart and a thirst for knowledge. And, it's kind of been a funny trend that I've noticed with a lot of our guests, like you, Riley, people that seem to be really successful are those people that are hungry for knowledge and people that aren't scared to go and find it and to learn new things. And I've seen that in a lot of our really awesome guests, that they are always trying to find and learn something new, whether if it's in a book or if it's a new skill. And I think that has a key to being a successful person.
Yeah, like starting the gym was scary because the old owner had a lot of knowledge. Like he understood CrossFit and nutrition and pre-workout nutrition, post and recovery and all the movements, and like he was a smart dude. And here I am, like 2 years into CrossFit, don't know hardly anything, power lifted it with my grandpa growing up. And uh it like I had to get like borderline obsessive about learning and deep diving. I still every day, every night, when me and my wife chill out, get the kids to bed, that's all we're doing. We're learning about all these movements and different drills and ways we could teach people, and it's just constant knowledge, trying to make sure we're adding as much value to the experience in our business as possible. And it's the same thing here at the dealership. I'm always trying to learn about the industry, the sales game, the service game, customer service, the John Deere tractors, always changing. Technology's incredible, on these machines, like industry leading technology, and just obsessively trying to make sure I don't look like an idiot when I talk to somebody about the stuff I'm involved in. So yeah, it's killer. Complacency, man, that's a bad spot to be in. Like just going home and like going to bed and waking up the next day and not having learned something or gotten better at something, to me is backwards. My dad, all growing up wrestling, there was always somebody that could beat me, but I won a lot of matches all growing up, and was always leaving with a medal. And dude, I would win a match by 10, 12, 14 points, and my dad was pissed I didn't get one more takedown, or he was pissed I didn't pin the guy, or he was pissed about, a shot I took that I didn't finish, and I'm like, I just smoked this kid, I just won this tournament, and he wasn't happy, and so it's that constant drive to be better, be better, be better. Every year I went into football, and every tournament I went into in wrestling, I had this inner feeling that I was inadequate, that I wasn't enough, or I wasn't good enough. And I come to the work every day worried that this place is going to burn down because I suck at what I do, and that mentality drives me to like get a little bit better every day, or learn something new every day to make sure I'm staying ahead. I just think it's important to try and improve a little bit every day and never feel like you've arrived.
I think a big part of it is just having a willingness to just to do it. Like this podcast, like you were saying, you're super nervous about having those conversations because you don't want to sound like an idiot. Dude, every time I get on this show, I'm like, dude, I'm going to sound like an idiot. But we do it anyway, and we just go for it. But that's part of it. You can only learn so much. You can only, put the time in and learn that part of it for so long until it's just time to do it. Me and Coke could have read books about podcasting and watched YouTube videos forever, but we just were like, dude, let's just do it, and I think that has a big part of being successful is, taking that knowledge and taking the time to do that, but then also being, brave enough to apply it in your life.
It's something my dad told me that I didn't understand as a kid, hearing it. I really didn't get it till a few years ago. And he'd always say 90% of everything is just showing up. If you can just show up, the other 10% will make up for itself. And I used to think, yeah, dude, that's not true at all. That's bull crap. But it's so true. Like Connor's saying, man, like you show up, whether it's a job, you're scared, you got a new job and you're doing something, dangerous or difficult, or you're going to a meeting and you're starting a podcast, whatever it is, 90% of that, dude, if you can just show up, you'll make it happen. That 10%, it's amazing what we can do, right, with our minds. And that just showing up just changes your whole mentality on everything, just like the gym and, your CrossFit gym. So, it's something I've learned, and That's something I've noticed too, that hunger that all these people we get to talk to. We're very lucky, me and Connor, I'm glad we get to share it because there's just so many good people out there that just are hungry, and they just want to be better. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, there's a progression to everything, isn't there? Like you can't, everybody wants to wait till they have a kid to have a kid till they're financially stable, or, you know, whatever. There's a progression to everything. You just got to start. And I think the podcast thing is super cool. I yeah, you just got to start in the gym. That's where we were at with the gym. And when we're onboarding new members, like a lot of people feel like they got to be fit to start coming to the gym. And it's like, no, you just got to start and show up and like come 4 or 5 days a week. You took 20 years to let your body get out of shape and feel like crap and eat like crap. And it's not going to happen in 2 months. Just show up for a year and then look back at where you were a year ago. And like, I guarantee you will be blown away at where you've come. And we have so many people start and cancel after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, because like they don't have a six, they look in the mirror, they don't have a six pack. And it's like, no, that is not how it works. Just show up, be consistent, whether it's with your wife, your kids, your job, the gym. Like, don't take the easy way out. Like, we deal with hardships every day. Life is hard, work is hard. Just put your head down, do the best you can, show up, like you said, David, and things are going to work out.
What's one piece of advice you'd give your 18-year-old self, some young kid that's just starting out that doesn't know what he wants to do? This always turns in, Connor's like, this is going to turn into a 20-minute thing. But it's cool, dude, because everybody has something different, than what they talked about too. But just, you don't have to be long, but man, just like what's some advice that you'd give?
Yeah, dude, that's a tough one, because like it's hard to discredit what got you where you're at, and as long as you're willing to be comfortable with where you're at and what you're doing day to day, it's hard to say I would have changed anything, because we're a product of what's happened to us. I went my whole life being told, my dad spent every morning of his married professional life out after college with his arm in a cow's ass, breeding every single morning for however many years. That's what he's done. So he always, I think that's why he was so hard on me in wrestling, because he felt like that was probably my ticket to college and my ticket out of that world, And so he rode me hard to go to college, and I thought that was the way to go. And so when I lost, out on the wrestling scholarship opportunity, I didn't know what to do. And I think going back, I honestly, I probably would have learned as many trades as I could have at 16, 17, 18. I honestly would have learned as many trades as I could have, because I think that's what would have added the most value to my life. I learned more in 1 year at the dealership here than I did in 5 years of college. So I have a bachelor's degree without having a bachelor's degree. I had the whole plan. I was going to graduate, and they changed. My degree went from one department to another department, and it added 9 credits of general education requirements, whatever, and it was going to set me back a whole year and a half, because they weren't offered every semester. They weren't offered online like the rest of my last 2 years. I was going to have to leave my job and go on campus. And I hung them the bird and said, this is BS. I'm learning more at my job. I'm climbing the ladder. And I literally, I don't want to bag on college, but like I learned more in 1 year here. So I would have dove into welding, electrical, all those things, and learned as much as I could, because I think it's limitless what you can do with a trade, especially if you acquire knowledge of how to, run a business and take care of people. you can make a lot of money and create a lot of opportunities for yourself in the trade industry. So
solid. That's why we asked that question, dude. Everybody always has something like profound at the end, but we appreciate it, man. We really do. This has been awesome. And if anybody's ever out in northern Utah, CrossFit Raw and Retro, go check it out. Is it right across from the bowling alley?
Yeah, the Polaris dealership,
yep.
Right across the street.
Cool, man. Well, hey, dude, we appreciate your time. Thanks for hopping on, and we'll talk to you at a later time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Hey, thanks, Riley.
See you, man. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Blue Collar Angst. We love having the opportunity to do this and share all the hard work and all the behind the scenes that goes into it with you guys. We're going to have video with us now on a lot of our podcasts. So we switched platforms. We were using a different platform. We're using Riverside FM right now, and it's been a great switch. Really good quality video, great recordings, and good studio atmosphere. So if you guys have any questions, comments for Riley, just reach out to us. stories@bluecollarangst.com, and we'll get back to you guys. Other than that, please like, share, and subscribe, and share this with your friends. And if they want to be on the show, shoot us a DM, email us, and we'll get you guys on here. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.